Breaking news: Ohanaeze President General Emmanuel dies at 82. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wonderful people, lovers of freedom all over the world. Wherever you're joining us from today, you're highly welcome to this wonderful YouTube platform. This is Let's Talk TV, your one and only conformento news platform that gives you quality news and information on all the activities where they happen for Biafraland territory. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you will be notified whenever we drop our spanking news. Now, straight up to the issue, it is a very sad day. Well, will I use the word sad day? In as much as the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, former president, the president Ohanaeze Ndigbo, one who just passed away, a few hours ago, did not really do much in helping and achieving any important thing for Ndigbo and Biafrans all over the world. But yet, a person of that timber and caliber is a big loss in Igbo land, in Igbo side of Biafra. Now, let us go straight up to the news because it is actually a sad one. Ohanaeze President General Iwanyanwu dies at 82. Almost every matured Igbo person who has truly, who really knows about the Igbo history and who knows about Igbo, who know about Iwanyanwu. Iwanyanwu is a name that will always ring bell, especially if you're from Imo State, because Iwanyanwu has actually made names. That was then, even before he became the President General. And the big question I keep on asking is, why are they losing? Why is Ohanaeze Ndigbo losing their president, back to back? It is actually it's actually something that we should be concerned about. Maybe they should change their ways. Maybe they should change their pattern of doing things. Maybe it will help in making them live longer. And in as much as Iwanyanwu lived 82, I feel he could have lived more. But meanwhile, let us give you the news in detail concerning his demise. The news reads: the President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, is dead. His death was confirmed in a statement on Thursday by his son, Jide. The statement reads: the Iwanyanwu family of Umuohi, Ata, in Ikeduru local government area of Imo State, announces the demise of our patriarch, engineer chief Emmanuel Chukwuemeka Iwanyanwu, aha Ejiagamba Ndigbo. Chief Iwanyanwu died on Thursday, July 25th, 2024, after a brief illness. He was aged 82 years. Chief Iwanyanwu, before his death, was President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo Worldwide and President of Owerri People's Assembly. The late Iwanyanwu leaves behind his wife Frances Iwanyanwu as well as his numerous children and grandchildren. According to the statement, the family will announce funeral arrangement in due course after necessary consultation. Iwanyanwu was a renowned businessman and politician, born in September 1942 in Umuohi, Ikeduru, Ata local government, Ikeduru local government area, Imo State. He served as the 11th president of Ohanaeze Ndigbo. And that is that on the issue of Iwanyanwu. It is actually a very sad one, for Iwanyanwu Ohanaeze Ndigbo. And he has actually turned to be the third person who did not see, the government actually releasing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because he also, was among people who was clamoring for the release, for the unconditional release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Once again, I know, condolences will start coming in, even as the president, Buhari Tinubu rather, has sent his condolences to the family of Iwanyan. That is how important Iwanyan was, in Biafraland. I'm not going to talk much about him, but I'm just going to allow you to do the commenting while we go further, to give this brief analysis on some particular issue in Biafraland. It is a sad one. Biafrans, might mourn, but the reality is that a strong man has actually left Biafraland. In as much as Iwanyan didn't do much, for Biafra, he didn't do much for the freedom of Biafra. But the reality is that Iwanyan will always be a name, a household name that people will always know in Igbo land.
Let me know in the comment section. I believe my voice is back. Let me know, please.
Remain adamant that he probably is not going to allow this. He said the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. That clearly indicates that he's not going to relent in his push to silence any voice of dissenting as far as that position is concerned. So which way forward to heal the divide between or amongst the Nigerians, especially on Biafra crisis?
I think the best thing is to ask them what they want. I remember one time Professor Wole Soyinka said, if we can continue fighting Biafrans for such a long time, it's not long before we go to war, which is actually happening right now. Why don't we ask them what they want? And for sure they have voiced and they have said it, that they want referendum. Why? Because for a long time, they do not have a mutual understanding with the rest of the Nigeria nation. They are not understood. They are marginalized for such a long time. They are not wanted by the rest of the Nigerian government. So the best thing is to take them to a referendum so that we know exactly what they want and separate them if that is exactly what they want. Why? Because if we continue like this, these are crises not only in Nigeria, but it will have a ripple effect to the bordering countries. And with time, it will have a big effect to the African countries. As I'm talking, Africa has the largest immigrants to the world. It has the largest refugees to the rest of the continents. Why is that so? It's because of such crises that we can see in Biafra and Amazonia and other countries like Sudan. So I think before we even move forward, it's very important that we give or they're given referendum. From there, they can be able to sort out the rest of the challenges. And it's quite unfortunate because we have diplomatic missions in Nigeria. Why can't they take that issue with them and sort it out? Why are they quiet? Why is the world quiet when Biafrans are suffering? Why is the world quiet when we know very well that such issues can affect the whole of the African continent? It's quite sad, and that's why as Punchline Africa TV will continue talking to the world and saying that these people need a referendum. They're not needed. If you don't need me in your space, give me what I want so that I can self-govern myself, which I think it's a good way and a diplomatic way of allowing people to go their way.
That would be cool. Coupled with that, I would like you to approach it from a different angle altogether. What probably could have informed this agitation for, of course, separation, for a referendum to go separate ways between, of course, Nigeria and the people of Biafra? Let's approach it from that angle as you and ask ourselves, what probably can we do to see into it that we find a healing in this divide?
Yeah, I think it's paramount to understand that for starters, there was no redemption, and the word you just used, healing, from the first Biafran crisis in 1967, to the 3 years fighting. And if you remember very well, there was a brief period where they got their independence, and then the Nigerian military decided to send all the planes to just bomb indiscriminately anybody who was found in that region. And those scars are passed on in what is called transgenerational trauma. You don't even have to tell your child about this. It's the same thing that affects most African countries. You don't really need to tell your child, hate this person or hate this person, but the way you behave, and the way you talk about these things, and the tone with which you use, your children pick that, and then they grow up with that. They send it to their children and their children's children, and each generation comes forth understanding their history and knowing very well that we are the people who have been marginalized in a country where we are one of the most, we are creating profit. We're bringing GDP, one of the highest rates of GDP. We're bringing the largest group of intelligent people. We're bringing the largest group of talented people. And yet we are the people who are not benefiting from all this. And this crisis goes on in most of the countries that we are finding, we are finding, you know, in the African continent with protests currently like Amazonia and Ethiopia. If you bring in another angle of how the Nigerian government has been dealing with this agitation, I believe, or I think, if they were to avoid the situation that they're finding themselves in, they really should have addressed the issue of why there was a Biafran war. There was a Biafran war, rather, in the first place. As it is, they are taking the Paul Biya approach of assuming everything is fine because we're in Lagos. While everything is not fine. People continue to die. You continue to apply the colonial methodology of handling protests, and that is arresting people arbitrarily, disappearing people arbitrarily. For a very long time, we don't know where Nnamdi Kanu is. That should not happen in this day and age. For a very long time, I don't know how many Biafrans have disappeared, how many have run from their homes, you know, fearing persecution or fearing death. And that is a very old, very archaic way of dealing with these protests. Most of these African governments could have benefited and could have avoided this crisis if they came forth and asked the people, what is it we can do for you? Where did we go wrong? How can we institute healing to begin in the Biafran region to start with? How can we make sure that we set up, even if it's a ministry, you know, or talk to the Ministry of Devolution, because Nigeria was one of the countries that started the federal system in Africa, and yet you have people with no roads. It makes zero sense, and that is a very it's a very bad conviction on devolution in Africa. So as it is, I think the onus is on the Nigerian government, first of all, to understand why there was a Biafran war in the first place, understand why it still goes on, ask the people what they want, and as it is right now, if they asked the people 10 years ago, the needs will be different, because right now all they want is a referendum. All they want is a referendum, and if they get that referendum, they're going to get out of Nigeria. They're going to vote and ratify that they need to be separate from Nigeria. The thing that the federal government of Nigeria fears about this is because they'll lose most of their resources and they'll lose most of their manpower and that skilled labor. This is something they should have addressed, you know, to prevent the anti